Hey guys, how you doing? I'm here with Marty. We're going for our walk. Thought I'd do a little bit spew something off my mind. Controversial issues, things that are happening today. You know, it's difficult making videos about controversial issues because they're controversial, and people react to controversy with a weird. Humans react in a very weird way. We tend to make up our minds and have an opinion without any information at all, right? We just, and especially these days with the way social media and the way information's disseminated, it's absolutely ridiculous. You will see a Facebook post from one of your wife's friends. You'll have a 25-word tweet, and you might see a 11-second clip on entertainment network like CNN and Fox News. And based on that information, based on that limited information, people think they are an expert on the complex scientific issues of global warming, and they'll have an opinion about it, or they'll understand economics and they'll understand government policy, or people will just jump to having an opinion without really understanding it. It's very rare that we'll find someone who's smart enough to say, you know what, I don't really understand all of this, I don't understand this issue, so I'm not sure. Unless I research it myself, I don't know what the right thing to do is. A couple of controversial issues these days, I'll spew them out here. Elon Musk. Why is the Securities and Exchange Commission not investigating Elon Musk? And you're probably thinking, well, why? What did he do? Well, here's a guy, the richest guy in the world, who one day just decides to tweet, I'm going to buy Twitter. I've bought 15% of the stock, and I want to take over Twitter, and I want to make it, I'm going to make it free speech. I'm going to improve Twitter. And you might think, well, what's the big deal? Well, number one, there are SEC's Security and Exchange Commission rules that say investors must disclose when they buy a large portion of a company. And he did not disclose when he accumulated enough stock to exceed that maximum amount. He said, fuck it, it's just a small fine, I'll just keep buying. And once he got to, 15% of the stock that he owned, he tweeted, I'm gonna buy Twitter. Now, the Twitter shareholders are suing Elon Musk because he did this. Why is it up to them to sue him? Now, let me paint the picture here. So the second he sends out a tweet that he's gonna buy Twitter, that stock jumps in value because it was trading, you have to look at the chart at 20, 30 bucks a share. And then Elon Musk comes out, sends out a tweet, I'm going to buy it for $54 a share. Immediately that stock shoots up, which means he's made a fortune on paper already, right? And so he's pumped the stock that he owns. And more importantly, Elon is kind of a gregarious, big-mouthed kind of guy. He works at Tesla. Who else knew that he was buying? How many executives of Tesla, or how many of his friends or family bought stock in Twitter before he tweeted that he was going to buy it? I don't know. Nobody knows. So the stock goes up. Then Elon sends out another tweet when he's been asked, how are you going to fund the purchase of this of Twitter? He says, well, I'm going to use my Tesla stock as collateral. I'm going to take out a loan with my Tesla stock as collateral. He tweets that out. All of a sudden, Tesla stock plummets because they don't want a fucking loan taken out on the majority shareholder of Tesla. What happens to all the people that owned Tesla shares 5 minutes before he sent that tweet out? They lost a fortune. And you're saying, well, he can take the loan if he wants to. But the point is, any other regulated corporation, if it has to make an announcement or disclose financials, does something called they have an annual general meeting they publish when they're going to release their results. They file those results with the SEC. Then investors know, oh, such and such company is releasing their quarterly financial statement on June 23rd at 4 o'clock. And then investors have time to research that company and say, well, I think the company's doing really well. They're going to exceed expectations. I'm going to buy the stock. Or they might think, well, I don't think the company's doing very well. I think they're going to miss expectations. I'm going to sell the stock. But investors have time to react because companies are bound by the Securities Exchange Commission's rules and regulations. Well, not Elon. He just tweeted, I'll just borrow some money on my Twitter or my Tesla stock. Boom, Tesla collapses. A couple of weeks go by, and then poor Elon is sitting there one day, probably thinking, wow, I bought 15% of Twitter and it's gone up this much, but I own a shit ton of Tesla and it's collapsing because I told them I'm going to borrow on the I'm losing money here. What do? I'll send out another tweet. I'll say I'm really worried about the ghost accounts on Twitter. The deal's off. Sitting on the toilet maybe after having a burrito with his phone in his hand, with his little thumbs, a tweet, yeah, deal's off. Well, deal's off, Twitter stock collapses. Tesla stock goes back up. And the guy's like, yeah, whatever. And there's no investigation. If I did that, it's called the pump and dump, right? You guys, any of you here know anything about investing? It's the typical, if you're a broker and you want to move something, you pump, right? You sell it to everyone. You talk the big talk. You get investors to start buying it. The price goes up, and you dump while it's going up, right? And then the investors realize, well, it was just all talk, and the stock's actually worthless. The typical pump and dump. Well, the question is, how many people, Elon included, friends of his, people that work at Tesla, executives that he knows, family members, whoever he blabs his mouth to, right? How many people bought Twitter stock before he tweeted that he would buy it when it skyrocketed? And then when he was panicking and decided to call the deal off, how many people sold before he tweeted that, the deal's off, I'm worrying about too many ghost accounts on Twitter? How many of his friends that bought sold before he sent that tweet out? Maybe nobody, right? Maybe he's an honorable, clean, squeaky clean, truthful guy that did all of this without saying anything to anyone. But I doubt it. That's what the SEC is for. How come there's no investigation? How come they're not overturning every rock to check out every large trade? Who made the money? Right, the stock skyrocketed, the stock collapsed. It's gyrating on the whims of some rich boy's tweets, and there's fortunes being made and fortunes being lost. For example, what if you're an old lady and your account's being managed, and a broker says, look at Tesla, you should have a position in Tesla, and he buys that for your retirement fund, and he buys it 2 days before Elon tweets that he's going to use Tesla stock for collateral to buy Twitter. And the stock collapses. And the old lady panics and sells and loses a fortune. And then 2 weeks later, he changes his mind and tweets it out. It's just, it just proves that there's rules for rich people and there's rules for regular idiots like you and me, right? If you want to get involved in high finances or trading, you have to realize that unless you're part of the old boys network, unless you're inside, right? If you're not inside, you're outside. And Elon and all his rich buddies are inside, and they're making a fortune. Whether he buys Twitter or not, he's making a fortune. And some people that were lucky made money on the gyrations of the stock, and some people lost a lot of money. And the thing is, one guy tweeting should not be able to destroy wealth and create wealth magically in publicly held securities. That's why you have an SEC. So my question is, why are they not investigating this guy? I don't know. You give me your opinion. It's controversial, And there's a lot of people that have no idea how finance works or no idea how, what the SEC does or what SEC even stands for, that will just have an opinion. He's rich, he earned his money, he could do what he wants. Whereas other people, this is an asshole, they should put him in jail. People will make an opinion based on not really understanding anything. I'm interested in your opinion. Maybe there's some smart people watching that will say something intelligent in the comment section. What else is controversial that I thought I would make a video on, but I'm not going to? I'll mention it here because it's one of the most controversial issues there is. In Canada, the province of British Columbia, well, all of Canada, and probably in the United States and other places, there's a big problem now. One of the biggest issues is the opioid crisis, the toxic drug crisis. In Canada, one of the #1 killers of young people is kids taking drugs. And the drugs are laced with toxic shit, and they inadvertently overdose and die. So the province of British Columbia, first province to do this in Canada, has legalized, this is their solution to the toxic drug problem that's killing young people and older people in our society, is that they decided that they could fix it by making illicit drugs legal. Without any other, that's it. Not a three-pronged approach or a series of steps, carefully analyze 5 or 6 different things that you should do to make it. No, we'll just make it legal. In small quantities, they have a certain amount that you're allowed to have now of even the most illicit drugs, and it's legal. So the police don't have to worry about it anymore. And I just watched on a video where they're guys interviewing some drug dealers, and they're thankful because now their job's easier, thinking, well, now we just have to adapt to that. We can have our dealers just possess a small amount while they're selling drugs, and so that if the cops catch them, they won't be over the legal limit. It'll be legal, and we'll just keep the big stash somewhere else, and they'll just come and refill. The pusher or the dealers will just circle around and get small amounts and sell them to people, and go to the main stash and refill, and they can sell drugs now legally. And my question is, well, how the hell is that going to stop people from dying from toxic drugs? And of course, what the government's leaning towards and what they're hinting at, and they're waiting for public opinion to go sway so they can do it, is they're talking about, well, that's going to be step 1, making the illicit drugs legal. Step 2 is going to be for the government to regulate and supply what they say is a safe drug source. And we're talking about heroin and, we're not talking about pot, right? Pot's already legal in Canada. There's stores all over the country. You go to any corner store now and buy cannabis. And so it's legal. The cops don't have to arrest anyone that's smoking pot anymore. But it hasn't solved anything. It's just put the market in the hands of the government so they can make some tax revenue on it. But the problem of someone getting high and driving a car and having an accident and killing someone because they're high, it's the same as alcohol, right? It's regulated and it's taxed, so it's legal. But people get into car crashes because they're drunk, and there's shit happens when you just legalize something. And I'm not making a comment of whether alcohol should be legal or not, or whether pot should be legal or not. The decision's made, but what governments tend to do is they'll legalize it, and then they'll wash their hands of it. They'll say, see, we've solved the problem. Well, they haven't solved the problem. You walk around in Canada now, and you smell pot everywhere. And this argument that, people that smoked pot before would continue to smoke it, and they would have got their drugs anyway. Well, it's partly true and partly not true, because a lot of people that never wouldn't have smoked pot are smoking pot now because you can go to the corner store right near the grocery store and buy it, right? My dad smoked a joint a couple of weeks ago, but he wouldn't have went out and found a dealer and bought a bag of pot. No, he said, oh, I wanted to try it. And me and one of the guys in the condo, we went out and we smoked a joint. I go, what happened? He goes, I don't know. It was apparently he was walking around the house trying to decide where he could move the chandelier. They got like a light above the kitchen, and he didn't like it there because it wasn't centered on the kitchen table. And he was asking my mother whether they could move the chandelier from here to somewhere. He was high, right? He had a good time. He didn't hurt anyone. But the point is, yeah, of course, use is going to go up. But, you know, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But you legalize it, more people are going to indulge. You legalize illicit drugs, more people are going to take illicit drugs. So anyways, the government is leaning towards, hinting, the BC government, that they're going to now, there'll be a government bureaucracy that's going to be responsible for manufacturing, distributing, taxing, keeping track of users, a bureaucracy to manage it, hiring another bureaucracy to distribute what they say are safe illicit drugs. So that, in their words, their definition of safe is that if people take the drugs, they won't die. If they don't overdose, they won't die because they won't be laced with toxic shit. Which, fine, that's their definition of safe. Well, I'm thinking, should that be the definition of safe? Is there a safe amount of heroin you should be taking? Is that what we want in our society? For people to safely just fucking become drug addicts and not die? And I can pay for it with my taxes? So is that the goal? And, you know, that is a controversial issue because, of course, having people die, hundreds of people every month in our country from, you know, and sometimes people that aren't drug addicts, you know, like someone's young kid's at a party and he's being pressured and other people are doing it and he tries for the first time and takes something and they tell him it's, you know, it's what, I don't know what they call it, have a bump, a heroin or whatever. And he takes something and it's laced with something else and his body can't handle it and he goes into cardiac arrest and the rest of his friends, they're all fucking stoned so they don't call 911 and the poor kid dies. And that's terrible. That is terrible. So how do you stop that? And that's a very controversial issue. And on this one, I'm going to say that I'm smart enough to know that I don't know what the answer is, right? I don't know. I haven't researched enough. I know a lot of countries have tried different approaches, and usually politicians point to whatever approach they want to take. They point to another country that's tried that approach, and they say, "See," right? And there's two extremes, right? The right-wing extreme is fuck them, let them die on the street. I don't care. They're all drug addicts, and that's wrong. And then there's the far left point of view that's we need to take care and do everything for everyone, and we should spend all our tax dollars on growing poppies and opium and supplying drugs for everyone. And if they want to use them, and we'll regulate them so they're safe. And if people choose to detox, we should have free detoxing facilities, and this should be a health issue, and we should pay for it all. And that's wrong too, right? Because if you build it, they will come. So I don't know what the right answer is, but for me, it feels wrong, in my opinion. This is an opinion. This is not. I'm not giving you now what is the best or not. Just my opinion, without knowing all the details on this issue, is I just do not feel that it's right that I should pay. You know, I'm a taxpayer, and everyone, the taxpayer, should fund the government growing, manufacturing, testing, distributing, managing illicit drug trade in what they call a safe way, and giving and making it a government-run business. That's not solving the issue for me. Sure, maybe the deaths will go down if we spend trillions of dollars supplying people with good, quote-unquote, safe drugs. Yeah, okay, maybe there'll be less deaths. But is that what we want? Is that how we want our society to be? Like, in my opinion, there'll be more people taking drugs, right? Oh, it's safe, it's free, the government says it's okay, it's regulated. Let's get high. And it just doesn't make sense to me, and I don't think it doesn't sit right with me. I'm interested in knowing your opinion. Maybe you live somewhere in another country where this has been a real issue that has been tackled by some smart people. And in my opinion, the goal should be to eliminate these hard, addictive, toxic drugs. I don't think there's any safe limit. I mean, you can say war on drugs, zero tolerance. The reason the war on drugs didn't work is because we never really fought the war, right? We kind of said, as long as no one's talking about it and it's not in public opinion, who gives a shit? That's the political solution, right? Just push it so far down on the agenda. If no one's talking about it, it's, don't worry about it. And that's wrong too. So I don't know what the correct solution is, but I can tell you, governments can decide and sway public opinion all they want, because there were more people dying of opioid, more young people between the age of, say, 16 and 25, thousands of percent more people between the ages of 15 and 25 dying of toxic drugs monthly in Canada over the past 2 years than there were dying of coronavirus, okay? There were thousands of percent, there was almost no people between the age of 16 and 25 dying per month of coronavirus, and there were hundreds of people between the age of 16 and 25 dying of coronavirus or dying of toxic drugs in Canada over the past 2 years. And yet all we heard is that, at school you have to wear your mask and you have to get 4 shots and you have to wash your hands 15 times a day and you have to, all the precautions we took for coronavirus. Fine. The amount of energy and the amount of expense that was used on that was so disproportional to the amount of energy or the amount of airtime that's given to the toxic drug problem. So and I'm not making the comment that close. Of course we should have worn masks and washed our hands. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have worn masks and we shouldn't have washed our hands and that coronavirus was a hoax. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the amount of effort that governments put into something is directly proportional to how much gain they think they will get from putting that effort in. And talking about drugs and drug addicts and people dying of overdoses is not popular. It makes people uncomfortable, and that's the reason governments have ignored it, right? Whereas jumping on the bandwagon to make you take a test when you cross the border, or when a province is shutting down, we're going to shut down the border to keep the coronavirus out between Manitoba and Ontario, in our own country, stopping us from moving around, that was popular. And they did a whole bunch of ridiculous, stupid decisions because it was popular. So, unfortunately, some of the real issues don't get the same amount of traction as some of the just ridiculous stuff that they do. So that's a controversial issue that I don't know the answer to. Remember, I'm putting my hand up here and saying I'm too stupid to understand the whole issue and know what the real solution is. So leave some comments in the comment section. And I do these videos sometimes where I talk about something a little bit more than, I could talk about a funny story that happened to me at the bank and it'll be ha 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 and everyone laughs. And that's great too. But sometimes there's these more controversial topics, and it's incredible how some people get either they have one opinion one way or the other without any information. And I ask you, think for a minute before you write your comment about how stupid I am or how right I am. Oh, of course I couldn't agree 100% more, or you're such an idiot. Before you jump to whatever kind of emotional response you have, ask yourself, do you really understand the issue, or you just saw a tweet or your cousin's Facebook post and maybe a 10-second clip on Fox News or a 15-second clip on CNN, and now you're an expert. Most of us really don't know what's going on with some of the complicated issues, right? So think about that. And secondly, what was I going to say? I think I'm done. I think I ranted enough. It's not good for the channel to talk about controversial stuff because people get butthurt. And I'm asking you to, with an open mind, those two issues, leave some comments, let's have a discussion. What do you guys think? Should the SEC investigate Elon Musk? I think, and that one, of course they should. Maybe he didn't do anything wrong and it's fine. But they gotta follow the money, right? Because regular people are getting screwed. And about this opioid crisis and the way Canada's going now, led by BC, we're going to make illicit drugs legal now. I don't know. I think that one I'm not sure of, but it's going down a path that's going to lead to government running. The government's going to become the drug dealers. I don't know about that. It just doesn't sit right with me. Let me know what you guys think. Have a fantastic day. Have a fantastic rest of your evening, whatever time it is for you. And I'm going to finish walking Marty. I'll catch you guys on the next one.